The Lee Holland Memorial Stages would be our first visit to Anglesey Circuit this season in the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship. And despite a few showers, the weather over the day was looking pretty good, especially for Anglesey. The championship battle was still close, and this weekend it would be the early lead for Michael Igoe and Will Atkins, exactly what they set out to do here in Wales. Into the second half of the season now, and every point and every quick start was going to be key in the fight for that title. Anglesey experts Rob Hughes and Sean Cunniff joined the championship cruise this time out, not here to gather points, but here for overall honours, shall we say. They lie in second place for now, not quite hanging on to those honours just yet, 11 seconds back from Igoe. Paul Murrow and Craig Simkis get themselves off to a great start this weekend with third place. They were 18 seconds back in that position, but they'd be happy with that after 3 stages this morning. And our reigning championship challengers, John Griffiths and Emma Morrison, will be in 4th place for now. They were only a couple of seconds back from Murrow and had Igoe in their sights. He would take some catching, but that was going to be the aim of the game this afternoon. For Gavin Edwards and Ivan Rowlands, it will be 5th place. They were just 4 seconds back from Griffiths and Morrison ahead as well. It was still all to play for in a few of those positions. A little behind them on the leaderboard were some famous names, Hugh Hunter and Rob Fagg, putting in some miles on the car ahead of the Northwest stages. It was going okay for the pair, 6th place overall, but frustratingly, that would soon come to an end. They retire on the very next stage with mechanical issues. So that for now left Thomas Cooper and Paul Williams in 7th and ready to inherit a position as well, if it were going. But they were also pushing, hopefully gaining a few more positions on that leaderboard as the afternoon went on. Tony Robinson and Simon Coates would unfortunately for them drop a position in stage 3, moving down to take 8th place overall for now in that Skoda. 6 seconds back from Cooper up ahead. And with the 4-wheel drive dominance at the top of the order, it would be Will Owen and Chloe Thomas leading the way in the 2-wheel drive crews. They were lying in 9th place overall, leading the way in Class C in their Escort. 2nd place in that class and rounding out the top 10 overall were James Garner and Jordan Joins, the Darien pair having a good push to get within 10 seconds of the Escort ahead. It's not often you can say it's Darien weather here at Anglesey. In Class B, it would be the lead for Bradley Carroll and James Gosling. Even with the 10-second penalty against them on the times, they have a 4-second lead for now. 2nd place behind them after stage 3 were Christian Davies and Ethan Zdrodowski. They'd been leading on the previous stage, but a drop on the leaderboard meant they now lie in a chasing position. And in Class D, it will be the lead of the class for Chris Berry and Lewis Griffiths. 23 seconds the advantage in that position. It was hardly a safe one for now, but it was a good margin to go charging into the afternoon. And 2nd place behind them on the overall leaderboard were Bertie Morton and Mark Walker. They only had a 2-second advantage in that position themselves, so they'd be watching behind them as well. And in Class E, it was the MX5 man himself, Paul Sheard, Colin Stevens alongside, leading the way in the class. There were only 2 crews in that class remaining now, and that meant a good advantage from that position. 2nd in the class, though, will be Lauren Groves, Tim Nunn alongside. Not challenging for the class victory, perhaps, but they were still pushing and trying to move up those overall results. A bit of a closer fight in Class F. Kai Evans and Yvonne Williams leading the way there in the little Toyota. They have a 16-second advantage in that position now. And behind them on the times will be Robert Barnett and Andrew Napier, 2nd in the class, looking to close that gap through the afternoon. And last but certainly not least, Class G would see a very small advantage of 4 seconds for Luke Constantine and Anthony Coates in the MG3, part of the new MG3 challenge that coincides with the Circuit Championship this weekend. Their lead in the class was over this man, Owain Hughes, Christopher Phillips in the Micra. They were going well over the morning's first 3 stages. So the morning stages are complete here at Anglesey. So here's a look at those overall results on the leaderboard so far on the Lee Holland Memorial Rally. As well as the Circuit Rally Championship this weekend, Anglesey would also play host to a round of the Junior 1000 Championship for 14 to 17-year-old rally drivers. And the results throughout the day would be changing stage by stage, eventually ending up with a 10th place for Zach Ferber and Dylan Thomas, who'd made their way back from an early spin. For Thomas Marriott and Rob Brooke, it will be 9th place to end the event. The pair had been up in 8th place for one of the stages, but that had frustratingly changed back to 9th on the penultimate stage of the day. And for Kyle Green and Oshan Owen, it would be the other way round. They were gaining positions throughout the day and would eventually come away with 8th position. Lewis and Ellie Arnold made some great progress through the event, ending the first stage in 15th overall, and by the end of the event lying in 7th place on the results. What a climb up that leaderboard. Daniel Taylor and Stuart Gilks, meanwhile, would lose a few positions over the course of the day. Nothing too much, but they do drop from 4th down to 6th in the C1. George Fenner-Lateo and Izzy Holman, meanwhile, will be one of the more consistent crews on the results. Perhaps Izzy was now showing George those results through the day. Hardly fluctuating at all, though, that pace through the event. They'd end the day 5th overall. Riley Chester and Victoria Swallow had made it as far up the results as 2nd place at one stage today, but unfortunately for them, it would be a challenge in the afternoon to keep that position, ending up dropping down to 4th, but only a single second off those podium positions. And of those podium places, well, 3rd place this weekend would go to Joshua Slaughter and Ben Wild, passing Chester on the results on the final stage to fight hard and take this position. Mackenzie Snowden and Jonathan Turnbull had been trying their best to get to the top of the order this weekend, but it wasn't to be. They'd have to settle for 2nd place. It was still very well deserved and a pretty good position to end a tough day in, of course. But that means it's a familiar story. We're back to a Matthewson on top. Charlie Matthewson, reigning champion, Ian Bass alongside, performing well in that new car. The pair getting a maximum score towards their defence of that junior championship here in 2024. So before we look at the overall results, here's a quick look at the junior championship times at the end of the event. Onto the afternoon stages then here at Anglesey. The weather had been kind to us today, hadn't it, overall? The final results in the senior rally, and there wouldn't be any change at the top of Class G. While there was movement around them, it will be no change, and 2nd in the class for Owain Hughes and Christopher Phillips. And that, of course, means it's a class win for Luke Constantine and Anthony Coates, who keep hold of that in the MG3 throughout the day. Hopefully we'll see more of these MG3s competing in the MG3 Challenge, cracking little rally cars. Things were much the same in Class F as well. Robert Barnett and Andrew Napier keeping hold of their 2nd place in the class to the finish. And for Kai Evans and Clifton Williams, it would be the class victory. The pair taking that position by over a minute by the end of the day's 6 stages. In Class E, there wasn't any change, and we might have expected that. Just the 2 in the class, so 2nd place for Lauren Groves and Tim Nunn by the finish of the rally. That, of course, putting Paul Sheard and Colin Stevens in the driving seat and in that number 1 spot throughout the rally, taking victory at the end of the day in that MX-5. Class B will be one of the few that would see some changes, and indeed a change in that 2nd place, as we lose Bradley Carroll from the top of the order and everyone else gains a position. Martin Farrer and Andrew Ward taking that 2nd position this weekend. Of course, the eagle-eyed among you spotting that meant that Christian Davies and Ethan Zrodowski were able to take back the lead of the class that they briefly held earlier in the day to take the Class B victory this weekend. In Class D, there was a bit more movement in gaining some positions to take 2nd place after a good fight back in the class will be Alex Stubbs and Rhys Edwards. And with our Class D winner in the overall leaderboard, we'll come back to this class very soon. Onto the top 10 then, and it will be 10th place overall for Craig Kamschultz and Kevin Lewis. gaining some time through the afternoon to step up the results and into the top 10. Ahead of them on the overall times will be Chris Berry and Lewis Griffiths. They gained some time through the afternoon stages to take 9th overall, and indeed were our Class D winners this weekend. The Class C fight couldn't really have ended any closer, with Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones, still smiling by the way, taking a joint position on the overall results, finishing on exactly the same time at the finish. Not bad for this pair of riffraff. And that would be a place they shared with the Darien pair of James Garner and Jordan Joynes. A great fight all day. Sadly, with a stage being cancelled at the end of the day due to the curfew at the venue, we wouldn't get to see that last stage battle that we've been looking forward to from the pair. Tony Robinson and Simon Coates, though, were having a good afternoon and in fact gaining some valuable time on those overall positions as well, moving up to take 6th overall by the end of the event in the Skoda. Some of this movement will be due to the loss of Rob Hughes and Sean Cunliffe, though. The wheels quite literally coming off their fight and the car for this weekend. It will be a great end to the rally, though, for Thomas Cooper and Paul Williams. They come away with 5th place overall here at Anglesey. And for Gavin Edwards and Ivan Rowlands, it will be 4th. They had a good, solid advantage in that position as well by the finish. A 46-second lead, in fact, but only 3 seconds off the podium positions themselves. And on to those podium positions, the best result this season for Paul Murrow and Craig Simkis, rounding out our podium places with a strong 3rd place finish, only 20 seconds back from 2nd. And in that 2nd position, collecting number 2s, in fact this season, in their championship defence, will be John Griffiths and Emma Morrison. They really could have done with victory to keep those championship hopes on track. The 2nd place would have to do. It wasn't over yet. They had a few more rounds to try and get themselves that trophy once again, and we'll see what happens next time out at the Dukeries Rally at Donington. That does mean, though, for this weekend, it was a familiar story for this season. Victory for Michael Igoe and Will Atkins. Another one to add to the tally, putting them in a pretty strong position in terms of taking the championship this season out. They still, however, had a bit of a way to go. We can't relax on their behalf just yet. So with the Lee Holland Memorial stages complete here at Anglesey Circuit, the results for round 6 of the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship are in, and they look like this.